Good evening, my name is Becky Anderson and I'm a sport performance consultant. Thank you for being here tonight. We are going to discuss communication for the new elite athlete, so let's get started. Congratulations! You are professional athletes. You have made the next jump in your athletic career. This is such an exciting time for you. So I just want to tell you congratulations on reaching one of your goals or dreams, and I wish you the best in this next adventure. So, finding your way. With this next phase in your athletic career, there's going to be an organization, a team, a club that you're a part of. And some things of it are going to be new to you. There's going to be a new culture, maybe a new language that they use, specific terms to the club or team. So there's going to be 4 different aspects that we're going to talk about that should help you determine how you're going to interact, who you can go to when you have a certain issue or question, and it will help you to figure out the environment that you are in. So we're going to discuss the structure, patterns, attitudes, and means of influence. The structure of an organization or a team, that's going to refer to the hierarchy. Who is responsible for what areas? What roles do they play? Who is a leader? Who is a follower? What decisions will be made? Is the hierarchy flexible or is it rigid? Are the boundaries of roles and responsibilities, are they flexible or are they rigid? You're going to want to observe and kind of see what is the dynamic in the structure of this organization. It is important that you know the hierarchy of your organization, so when you are interacting and engaging and communicating with different people, you know the proper way to interact and how to be respectful to them. You're going to act differently to someone of a higher status than one of your own teammates. You'll still be respectful, but there's just a different attitude in communicating. You might be more joking and more friendly with your teammate compared to the owner of the team. You're going to be very professional, you're going to be respectful. So it's just important to understand the hierarchy so you know how you can act and put a good reputation to your name. Patterns of an organization or a team. This is going to refer to the ins and outs. How does information flow through the hierarchy, up or down? And then who carries out what roles and when do they do that? The patterns of the organization or team is related to the structure. You're going to want to identify what the hierarchy is. Does it go owner, then coach, then captain, then veteran players, and then all the other players on the team? You're going to want to identify what that flow of information going up or down the chain of command, what is that pattern? Because you're going to want to figure out how are decisions made and when are they typically made. So if you have something to add to the team, you're going to want to figure out who you can go to and then who they can bring it to. You're going to want to use the system they have set up to your advantage, so it's very vital that you can identify it. As a new member to this organization and team, you're going to want to figure out what are the attitudes. What is important to key people in the organization? What are the attitudes within this system? What is their culture? What does the environment that you're in, what comes out as values and beliefs? Through your experiences and your observations, what are the goals of this organization? What language do they use? What are specific and unique terms to this team and organization? You're going to want to be aware in your practices and in games and in your encounters with teammates and other members of your organization. You're going to want to reflect and pull out these key points of values, beliefs, and goals, so you know when you're in this situation or this setting, this is how I'm supposed to act. This is the expectation. So to put this in perspective, here's an example. You're in the locker room before a game, and each team is different, but let's say the value that this team and organization has is when you step into the locker room before the game, you have already put on your game face. You are in the zone. There's no silly business. It is strict game time preparation. So it's just important to understand what is the expectation and how to behave. You don't want to walk into a locker room and throw things off. You want to observe and figure out what is the behavior and the attitude that I should be having right now. Means of influence. This is exciting for you as new members to an organization and a team, because no matter your position in the hierarchy, you have the chance to make an impact. You can make an impact that is positive or negative. It's your choice. So, on a daily basis, you're going to interact with a variety of people in the organization, from teammates, coaches, trainers, and people who work in the front office. At some point or another, you're going to engage with them. So you have the opportunity to positively engage with them. You can show support, have a positive attitude, give compliments, show appreciation for them. You also have the opportunity to have a negative influence. You can complain, you can be defiant, you can have arguments with people, and bring the attitude down of the organization in kind of a dark cloud over it. So, deciding what your influence is going to be is really going to reflect on who you are and what your value is to the organization. So when you're communicating with these people, if you are showing support and being appreciative of their roles and their responsibilities, that's going to be a positive communication and interaction, and that is going to reflect well on you as you are new to this organization. Another aspect of means of influence is knowing what is motivating to people. So you're going to have teammates who are going to struggle with motivation at times and performing and working hard at practice. So if you know what is motivating them, you can influence them by reminding them what they're working for and what they want. So if a teammate is working towards gaining more playing time, you can give them an encouraging statement or something that is motivating to keep them pushing through. So you might be thinking, all right, I gotta understand the structure, the patterns, the attitudes, and the means of influence. I see how this all can be helpful, but man, this is a lot of information to gather. How am I supposed to do this? So there's two ways you can do this. There is covertly, which is an informal way, and overtly, which is formal. The other good point is that this is an ongoing process. This all does not have to be done right away, but it's just important that you're aware and reflecting on these points. So covertly, you are going to gather some of this information and obtain this knowledge through informal encounters and interactions and observations. By hearing stories of what other players and people in the organization, what their experiences have been. Learning through your day-to-day encounters and interactions is going to be a huge part of learning the culture of this organization and this team. So it's important that at the end of the day or at a point in the day when you have the time to just kind of reflect and pull out some key points that you have gathered about attitudes, values, what the chain of command is, how do you communicate with certain people, and then make a mental note of that so you have an expectation of what you should be behaving and acting like. Another way you can gain this information and knowledge about your organization and team is overtly. This is through purposeful interactions. So this can be through your reflections, through presentations, trainings that the organization puts on, and time spent with someone who's trusted and someone who you feel is open to helping you learn this. So finding someone you can trust and asking them questions about things that are uncertain in the organization. As a new member to an elite organization and team, you want to come in and act in a way that is fitting to the organization, that gives a good representation of who you are, and starts off your professional journey on the right foot. So if we can be aware of the structure, the patterns, the attitudes, and the means of influence in your team and organization, that is going to help you maneuver day-to-day interactions, and it's going to help you know what channels to go down in certain situations and when you have specific questions. So I really encourage you in your day-to-day interactions to be aware and observant and take some time to reflect on what you saw, what you heard, and really pull values and beliefs and points that you can apply continuing on your professional career. So just one quote that we're going to leave off with is from William Osler, and it says, "Observe, record, tabulate, communicate. Use your 5 senses. Learn to see, learn to hear, learn to feel, learn to smell, and know that by practicing along, you can become expert." This was just encouraging to me because keep practicing, and you will keep growing, and you will keep performing. So remember, this is not just a one-and-done thing at the beginning of your elite career. This is the patterns and the structure and the attitudes and means of influence. You can keep learning about them as you go. So I wish you the best of luck on this next adventure in your athletic career.